Today, I am going to read Arthur Schopenhauer's On Women. It is an essay about his opinion on who we are, what our nature is. I've never read it, so this ought to be interesting. I've been told about it, and I thought it's perfect for literary archaeology. This was written, like I said, by Arthur Schopenhauer in 1865, so he was German, but it was right after the American Civil War. For any of you Americans out there, that gives you a frame of reference. America was a little late to the Industrial Revolution, a little behind Europe, but this is when it really started kicking off because the South was providing the raw materials to the North because factories. So it gives us an idea of what that was all about. You guys ready? Welcome back to Literary Archaeology. Not going to comment much as we go along because I want to keep the flow of what he's saying. It's going to be difficult, so glasses would help. If you're new here, this channel got started because I began reading fairy tales on my original channel, Far From Eden. We started realizing I was just going to look at like the whole Disney princess idea and why we often have this idea that we expect this and we deserve this. And come to find out, the Grimm brothers fairy tales were way different than what we thought the fairy tales were about. So generally speaking, that's where we've been. But there's so much to dig up. So it isn't always going to be fairy tales. One need only look at a woman's shape to discover that she is not intended for either too much mental or too much physical work. She pays the debt of life not by what she does, but by what she suffers, by the pains of childbearing, care for the child, and by subjugation to man, to whom she should be a patient and cheerful companion. The greatest sorrows and joys or great exhibition of strength are not assigned to her. Her life should flow more quietly, more gently, and less obtrusively than man's, without her being essentially happier or unhappier. That sounds like a pretty good life. That sounds like privilege for us, and the happier or unhappier sounds like equality. I don't think that's what a lot of feminists would get out of it, though. Women are directly adapted to act as the nurses and educators of our early childhood for the simple reason that they themselves are childish, foolish, and short-sighted. In a word, are big children all their lives. Something intermediate between the child and the man, who is a man in the strict sense of the word. Consider how a young girl will toy day after day with a child, dance with it and sing to it, and then consider what a man with the very best intentions in the world could do in her place. Right? Because she's like, what's a guy going to do? This is my job. And having taught riding lessons to majority kids for most of my life, yeah, that silliness, that lightheartedness, the ability to be on their level, it's a gift that we have. But we think it's an insult. Whatever. With girls, nature has had in view what is called a dramatic sense of a striking effect, for she endows them for a few years with a richness of beauty, a fullness of charm, at the expense of the rest of their lives, so that they may during these years ensnare the fantasy of a man to such a degree as to make him rush into taking the honorable care of them in some kind of form for a lifetime, a step which would not seem sufficiently justified if he only considered the matter, right? He gets caught up and enchanted by us, because why else would he take on that and the sacrifice that men make, that men do? That's the way he's looking at it. Accordingly, nature has furnished woman as she has the rest of her creature, as she has the rest of her creatures. Nature? I would say God has furnished woman as he has the rest of her creatures with the weapons and implements necessary for the protection of her existence and for just the length of time that they will be of service to her, so that nature has proceeded here with her usual economy, just as the female ant, after basically like coition, loses her wings, which then becomes superfluous, nay, dangerous for breeding purposes. So, for the most part, does a woman lose her beauty after giving birth to one or two children, and probably for the same reasons. Interesting. Interesting. I never thought of it that way, right? Because we've already had the children. So, that everything that was attractive to a new man wouldn't be there, because that's just going to make it easier for us to fly away and not do our duty. Okay. Then again, we find that young girls in their hearts regard their domestic or other affairs or as secondary things, if not as a mere jest. Love, conquests, and all that these include, such as dressing, dancing, and so on, they give their serious attention. Funny. So we put serious attention into the things that catch a man, but not into the duty that we have after that has happened. Sorry, Charlie's wanting to have a discussion. Charlie's our cat. By our, I mean, the guys in the chat, the people have been following this channel. I feel like he's ours. Lola's our dog. They make a lot of appearances. The nobler and more perfect a thing is, the later and slower it is in reaching maturity. Man reaches the maturity of his reasoning and mental faculties scarcely before he is 8 and 20. Women when she is 18. But hers is reason of very narrow limitations. This is why women remain children all their lives, for they always see only what is near at hand. Cling to the present, take the appearance of a thing for reality, and prefer trifling matters to the most important. It is by virtue of man's reasoning powers that he does not live in the present only, like the brute, but observes and ponders over the past and future, and from this spring discretion, care, and that anxiety which we so frequently notice in people. The advantages, as well as the disadvantages that this entails, make woman, in consequence of her weaker reasoning powers, less of a partaker in them. The big picture is harder for us. I'm not afraid to say it. Moreover, she is intellectually short-sighted, for although her intuitive understanding quickly perceives what is near to her, on the other hand, her circle of vision is limited and does not embrace anything that is remote. Hence, everything that is absent or past or in the future affects women in a less degree than men. This is why they have greater inclination for extravagance, which sometimes borders on madness. Women in their hearts think that men are intended to earn money so that they may spend it, if possible during their husband's lifetime, but at any rate after his death. 1865, you guys. He's saying that women just expect the men to make money so that we can spend it for his whole life and then after he's gone. 1865. As soon as he has given them his earnings on which to keep house, They are strengthened in this belief, right? Yeah, you gave me some to do this. Just give me all of it. Why don't you? Entitlement. Although all this entails many disadvantages, yet it has this advantage that a woman lives more in the present than a man, and that she enjoys it more keenly if it is at all bearable. This is the origin of that cheerfulness which is peculiar to woman and makes her fit to divert man, and in case of need, to console him when he is weighed down by cares. See, this is a compliment. How are we, I've been saying this, how are we to be cheerful to do our jobs if we're aware of the horribleness that life is, the difficulty, the suffering, the challenges, the anxiety? That needs to be blocked out, and God has created a way that it just is. And whatever our brains want to seek out, the men protect us from that, so that we can be joyful and we can be cheerful for when his heart is heavy. And for the children, they don't need to be freaked out all the time. They don't need to know the harvest looks light. Within reason, they can learn that life isn't fair, etc. But it's our jobs as women, yes, we have responsibility, we have duty to be cheerful, to be intuitive, pick up on the things that the men cannot pick up on because they're, reasoning and looking at big picture and whatever. I don't want to do that. I don't, but I'm extremely intuitive, and I can read people, and I can sense danger in a way that a man cannot. And I can be cheerful because I am not thinking of all the horrible things that can happen, because it's not my job to go do battle against it. We have our jobs. It's interesting to me that so many women find this to be insulting to us. It's only insulting to us if you already don't like women. So in that case, who's the misogynist? Is it Arthur Schopenhauer, or is it the ones who think this is an insult? I know what I think. To consult women in matters of difficulty, as the Germans used to do in old times, is by no means a matter to be overlooked, for their way of grasping a thing is quite different from ours, chiefly because they like the shortest way to the point, and usually keep their attention fixed upon what lies nearest, while we, as a rule, see beyond it. Exactly. For the simple reason that it lies under our nose. It then becomes necessary for us to be brought back to the thing in order to obtain a near and simple view. This is why women are more sober in their judgment than we, and why they see nothing more in things than is really there, while we, if our passions are roused, slightly exaggerate or add to our imagination. This is not an insult. Ladies, if you're watching, this is a celebration of us. You probably think I'm Looney Tunes, but seriously, think about it like that. Think about if you're a lady, if you're a woman, why this would begin to offend you so much. It's complimenting us. It's complimenting the things that we can do, the things that we are that men are not. It's not dogging on men. It's not dogging on women at all. It's actually describing the perfect nature of how complementary we are to one another, and how, there's a lot of things that we can do in ways that we can think that men can't, that is helpful to the men. So even after you're enchanted by us, you might want to keep us around, because start to figure out, hey, if I listen to her, I get a, kind of a bigger picture, a more full picture, and then I can decide what to do. Makes sense to me. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And by the way, if you haven't already, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. It is because women's reasoning powers are weaker that they show more sympathy for the unfortunate than men, and consequently take a kindlier interest in them. On the other hand, women are inferior to men in matters of justice, honesty, and conscientiousness. Again, because their reasoning faculty is weak, things clearly visible and real and belonging present exercise a power over them which is rarely counteracted by abstract thoughts, fixed maxims, or firm resolutions. In general, by regard for the past and future, or by consideration for what is absent and remote. Accordingly, they have the first and principal qualities of virtue, but they lack the secondary qualities which are often a necessary instrument in developing it. I'm going to read that again. Because in this time, in this generation, I can already hear you guys like, wait a second, the women are the virtuous ones? I mean, we're not really showing it, right? And so people have said, well, I thought the women were the ones with the empathy, and we have all the empathy for, you know, newcomers into the country, right? But we lack it maybe for our children who haven't been born yet and who won't be because of a decision we will make. Read that again. Okay, let's see. Accordingly, they have the first and principal qualities of virtue, but they lack the secondary qualities which are often a necessary instrument in developing it. So if we don't develop it, or we only develop it in certain ways, I think we get to where we are now. Because think about it. We lack, in this day and age, there's a problem with empathy for men, right? A lot of us lack empathy for men. But if you're propagandized to think men are bad, to the point where you would choose a bear than a strange man in the forest, then it's already kind of blocked. It's fascinating. Okay. Women may be compared in this respect to an organism that has a liver but no gallbladder, so that it will be found that the fundamental fault in the character of women is that they have no, quote, sense of justice. This arises from their deficiency in the power of reasoning already referred to in reflection, but it is also partly due to the fact that nature has not destined them, as the weaker sex, to be dependent on strength, but on cunning. This is why they are instinctively crafty and have an ineradicable tendency to lie. Tell me what you guys think in the comments about that. This is good stuff. I can see why you guys have recommended this to me and wanted me to read this. Good stuff, man. And I see why, the elites want to bury it. For as lions are furnished with claws and teeth, elephants with tusks, boars with fangs, bulls with horns, and the cuttlefish with its dark, inky fluid, so nature has provided woman for her protection and defense with the faculty of dissimulation and all the power which nature has given to man in the form of bodily strength and reason has been conferred on woman in this form. Hence, dissimulation is innate in woman and almost as characteristic of the very stupid, as of the clever. Accordingly, it is as natural for women to dissemble at every opportunity as it is for those animals to turn to their weapons when they are attacked, and they feel in doing so that in a certain measure they are only making use of their rights. Yeah, we don't think we're doing anything wrong. Do you ever notice if a man happens to cheat on a woman, right? Say he steps out. Now, there's always two sides of a story. But after that happens, hell hath no fury as a woman scorned. She thinks if you wronged her in any way, forget the cheating thing, if you wronged her in any way, well, I can do whatever I want. Ruin your reputation, mess with your brain, falsely accuse you, game on. It's like, and they think of it as like some type of self-defense. I want to know how this guy found all this stuff out. How did he learn all our secrets? Okay. Therefore, a woman who is perfectly truthful and does not dissemble is perhaps an impossibility. This is why they see through dissimulation in others so easily. That's right. That's why I can decode all these women. I hate to say it, but it's because I have the ability myself. It doesn't mean I'm doing it, but I know I have the ability. I have the ability to manipulate. I have the ability to be cunning. I have the ability to trick, all of that. I know that if I did it, would be very good at it. But instead, I use that superpower to suss out all these other women. That's how I know what they're doing. That's why we say women know women. Because since we can do all this, we can see it. He's absolutely right. Dead on with that. Okay. This is why they see through dissimulation in others so easily. Therefore, it is not advisable to attempt it with them. From the fundamental defect that has been stated and all that it involves spring falseness, faithlessness, treachery, ungratefulness, and so on. In a court of justice, women are more often found guilty of perjury than men. It is indeed to be generally questioned whether they should be allowed to take an oath at all. From time to time, there are repeated cases everywhere of ladies who want for nothing, secretly pocketing and taking away things from shop counters. I think we are the shoplifters. I watch cop cam videos and I can't tell you if I've ever seen a male shoplifter. Maybe like a homeless guy in like a gas station, but not. Nature has made it the calling of the young, strong, and handsome men to look after the propagation of the human race so that the species may not degenerate. This is the firm will of nature, and it finds its expression in the passions of women. This law surpasses all others in both age and power. Woe then to the man who sets up rights and interests in such a way as to make them stand in the way of it. For whatever he may do or say, they will, at the first significant onset, be unmercifully annihilated. For the secret, unformulated, nay, unconscious, but innate moral of woman is, we are justified in deceiving those who, because they care a little for us, that is to say, for the individual, imagine they have obtained rights over the species. The constitution and consequently the welfare of the species have been put into our hands and entrusted to our care through the medium of the next generation which proceeds from us. Let us fulfill our duties conscientiously. I think you gave us too much power. But women are by no means conscious of this leading principle in abstracto. They are only conscious of it in concreto and have no other way of expressing it than in the manner in which they act when the opportunity arrives. I think I'm learning about myself. So that their conscience does not trouble them so much as we imagine. For in the darkest depths of their hearts, they are conscious that in violating their duty toward the individual, they have all the better fulfilled it towards the species, whose claim upon them is infinitely greater. A fuller explanation of this matter may be found in volume, II, chapter 44 in my chief work. This is German, so I cannot read it. Die Welt aus Will und Vorstellung. Rojas is laughing at me right now because I know he's at least one of the people in the chat who speaks German, and I'm sure I absolutely destroyed that, but it was fun. Because women in truth exist entirely for the propagation of the race, and their destiny ends here. They live more for the species than for the individual, and in their hearts take the affairs of the species more seriously than those of the individual. This gives to their whole being and character a certain frivolousness and altogether a certain tendency which is fundamentally different from that of man. And this is, and this it is which develops that discord in married life which is so prevalent in almost the normal state. 1865. For anyone who thinks that all of this, problems between men and women and everything is new, oh, this modern feminism is really a problem. This stuff started a lot longer ago than you'd think. It is natural for a feeling of mere indifference to exist between men, but between women it is actual enmity. This is due perhaps to the fact that odium figulinum, in the case of men, is limited to their everyday affairs. I don't know what that is. Odium figulinum. Odium, I'm thinking, is like some kind of hate. Anyway, is limited to their everyday affairs, but with women embraces the whole sex, since they have only one kind of business. Even when they meet in the street, they look at each other like gulfs and ghibellines. Okay, that first word is Guelphs, and the second one isGhibellines. I need to look that up later. Maybe you guys let me know in the chat what those things are in the comments. Okay, we look at each other like those things. And it is quite evident that when two women first make each other's acquaintance, that they exhibit more constraint and dissimulation than two men placed in similar circumstances. This is why an exchange of compliments between two women is much more ridiculous than between two men. Further, while a man will, as a rule, address others, even those inferior to himself, with a certain feeling of consideration and humanity, it is unbearable to see how proudly and disdainfully a lady rank will, for the most part, behave towards one who is in a lower rank, not employed in her service, when she speaks to her. This may be because differences of rank are much more precarious with women than with us, and consequently more quickly change their line of conduct and elevate them, or because while 100 things must be weighed in our case, there is only one to be weighed in theirs, namely, with which man they have found favor. And again, because of the one-sided nature of their vocation, they stand in closer relationship to each other than men do. And so it is they try to render prominent in differences of rank. Yeah, we compete with one another and we generally don't like each other. But it is ridiculous. We're like, oh my God, that sweater's so cute. There is a scene in Mean Girls when Regina George, the popular one, says to a not popular one, oh my God, that skirt's so cute. Where'd you get it? And the girl says, oh, it was my mom's. And Regina George says, vintage, I love it. And she turns, she's like, that is the ugliest skirt I've ever seen. I'm paraphrasing, but it's something like that. And every woman who's watched that movie understands what that was. Dang. Okay. It is only the man whose intellect is clouded by his sexual instinct that could give that stunted, narrow-shouldered, broad-hipped, and short-legged race the name of the fair sex, for the entire beauty of the sex is based on this instinct. One would be more justified in calling them the unaesthetic sex than the beautiful. Neither for music, nor for poetry, nor for fine art have they any real or true sense and susceptibility. And it is mere mockery on their part in their desire to please if they affect any such thing. Yeah, we didn't sculpt anything and we didn't write the great music. We didn't do that. That's you guys. We aren't the great architects of buildings and stuff. That's just not what we do. We did birth them and teach them when they were little, and things like that, but we did not do it. And I'm confident enough and secure enough to admit it. This makes them incapable of taking a purely objective interest in anything. And the reason for it is, I fancy, as follows. A man strives to get direct mastery over things either by understanding them or by compulsion. But a woman is always and everywhere driven to indirect mastery, namely through a man, all her direct mastery being limited to him alone. Therefore, it lies in women's nature to look upon everything only as a means for winning a man. And her interest in anything else is always a simulated one, a mere roundabout way to gain her ends consisting of coquetry and presents. He's not wrong. The chicks are lying about why they do what they do. And like, I don't need no man. I'm single by choice. No, you're not. No, you're not. Whew. All right. Hence Rousseau said, les femmes en général, I don't know what this is, n'aiment aucun art. I don't know how to say that. I know les femmes is right. And general, I don't know what this is. And apostrophe A-I-M-E-N-T, next word A-U-C-U-N, next word A-R-T. Oh, we're still going on. Ne se connaissant, I don't know. Okay, I'm butchering this. So anyways, everyone who can see through a sham must have found this to be the case. One need only watch the way they behave at a concert, the opera, or the play. The childish simplicity, for instance, with which they keep on chattering during the finest passages in the greatest masterpieces. If it is true that the Greeks forbade women to go to the plays, I didn't know that. They acted in a right way, for they would at any rate be able to hear something. In our day, it would be more appropriate to substitute tacit mulier in theatro. I have no idea. I wish I could read French now. In ecclesia, something church, I guess. And this might perhaps be put up in big letters on the curtain. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Nothing different can be expected of women, if it is borne in mind that the most eminent of the whole sex have never accomplished anything in the fine arts is really great, genuine, and original, or given to the world any kind of work of permanent value. I mean, we've birthed the children. That's but it just happens. We didn't like actually do it. I can't argue with it. I really can't argue with this. As much as I wanted to be like, well, we wrote some songs. We didn't. Not like the men did. There's no female Mozart. And it isn't because we were, held back. There are some female writers. I don't know. What do you guys think? And why is my brain trying to somehow compete with you right now? Why is that the thing to do? The propaganda is still there. I have to fight it back. That my nature is there. The propaganda is there. I have to fight it back. My glasses are crooked. It's bothering me. Okay. This is long, but hopefully you're still with me. Oh yeah. Hit like on the video. We're still going. It's getting better as I go, actually, I think. Okay. This is more striking in regard to painting, the technique of which is much within their reach, as within ours. This is why they pursue it so industriously. Still, they have not a single great painting to show, for the simple reason that they lack the objectivity of mind, which is precisely what is so directly necessary in painting. They always stick to what is subjective. Feelings, nothing more than feelings. Sorry. For this reason, ordinary women have no susceptibility for painting at all, for natura non facet saltum. And Huarte in his book, which has been famous for 300 years, Examen de Ingenios para... Oh, I can read Spanish. Examen de Ingenios para las Ciencias, contends that women do not possess the higher capacities. Individual and partial exceptions do not alter the matter. Exceptions do not negate the rule. What is it? Women are and remain, taken altogether, the most thorough and incurable Philistines, and because of the extremely absurd arrangement which allows them to share the position and title of their husbands, they are a constant stimulus to his ignoble ambitions. And further, it is because they are Philistines that modern society, to which they give the tone and where they have sway, has become corrupted. I feel like he has a time machine and he's seen us and what we're doing to society. People needed to heed the warning. Goodness me. Okay. And further, it is because they are Philistines that modern society... Oh, yeah, I just read that. As regards their position, one should be guided by Napoleon's maxim, "Le femme n apostrophe ONT, next word PAS, next word DE, next word RANG, and regarding them in other things." Chamfort says very truly, "Elles sont faites pour commercer avec nos faiblesses, avec notre folie." Mais, oh my gosh, you guys, I wish I'd kept learning French. This is terrible. I can't read all this. It's too much French. Okay. They are the sexus sequior, the second sex in every respect. Therefore, their weakness should be spared. But to treat women with extreme reverence is ridiculous and lowers us in their own eyes. Yes, when nature divided the human race into two parts, she did not cut it exactly through the middle. We are his rib. The difference between the positive and negative poles, according to polarity, is not merely qualitative, but also quantitative. And it was in this light that the ancients and people of the East regarded woman. They recognized her true position better than we, with our old French ideas of gallantry and absurd veneration. Oh, he's a men's rights activist guy. He's like, this chivalry baloney is, you got to knock it off. I recognize it. He's not wrong. I get what he's saying, like with the Enlightenment and chivalry rising up, and a lot of it infiltrated Christianity. It is not Christianity, which I tried to tell the men's rights people. Hi, Alan. It's not. It didn't come from there. The Christianity has been infiltrated for a very long time, and I'm not going to say who by. Let me know in the comments and just use code words. Okay. The East, they recognize her true position better than we, with her old French ideas of gallantry and absurd veneration, that highest product of Christian Teutonic stupidity. See, I didn't even know they was about to say that. These ideas have only served to make them arrogant and imperious, to such an extent as to remind one at times of the holy apes in Benares, who, in the consciousness of their holiness and inviolability, think they can do anything and everything they please. In the West, the woman, that is to say, the lady, finds herself in a false position. For woman, rightly named by the ancients sexus sequior, is by no means fit to be the object of our honor and veneration, or to hold her head higher than men and to have the same rights as he. The consequences, I mean, men's rights advocates say that equal, they don't recognize that there's a different nature. So I don't want to put that on here, just making that distinction. The consequences this is long. The consequences of this FOSS or FOSSE position are sufficiently clear. Accordingly, it would be a very desirable thing if this number 2 of the human race in Europe were assigned her natural position, and the lady grievance got rid of, which is not only ridiculed by the whole of Asia, but would have been equally ridiculed by Greece and Rome. And they were Christian. You see, it's not a Christian thing to elevate us. It's not a Christian thing to be chivalrous to us. It's not. The result of this would be the condition of our social, civil, and political affairs would be incalculably improved. The Salic law would be unnecessary. It would be superfluous truism. The European lady, strictly speaking, is a creature who should not exist at all. But there ought to be housekeepers and young girls who hope to become such, and they should be brought up not to be arrogant, but to be domesticated and submissive. It is exactly because there are ladies in Europe that women of a lower standing, that is to say, the greater majority of the sex, are much more unhappy than they are in the East. Even Lord Byron says, I feel like, thought of the state of women under the ancient, what does it say? That just says, even Lord Byron says, and this is Letters and Papers by Thomas More. Okay, thought of the state of women under the ancient Greeks, convenient enough. Present state, a remnant of the barbarism of the chivalric and feudal ages, artificial and unnatural. Oh my goodness. They ought to mind home and be well fed and clothed, but not mixed in society, well educated too, in religion, but to read neither poetry nor politics, nothing but books of piety and cookery, music, drawing, dancing, also a little gardening, and plowing now and then. I have seen them mending the roads in Epirus with good success. Why not? As well as haymaking and milking. We would be a lot happier. We would be. But we think, no, I want to do all those things. I want to have the rights. Like, why though? Why? Why don't we just do the things that we're good at? I don't know. In our part of the world where monogamy is in force, to marry means to have one's rights and to double one's duties. When the laws granted woman the same rights as man, they should also have given her a masculine power of reason. This was 1865. Women got the vote in America in 1920. But he's saying that we have the same rights as man. That is interesting. When the laws granted woman the same rights as man, they should also have given her a masculine power of reason. On the contrary, just as the privileges and honors which the laws decree to women surpass what nature has meted out to them, so is there a proportional decrease in the number of women who really share these privileges. Therefore, the remainder are deprived of their natural rights insofar as the others have been given more than nature accords. For the unnatural position of privilege which the institution of monogamy and the laws of marriage which accompany it assign to the woman, whereby she is regarded throughout as a full equivalent of the man, which she is not by any means, cause intelligent and prudent men to reflect a great deal before they make so great a sacrifice and consent to so unfair an arrangement. Therefore, whilst among polygamous nations every woman finds maintenance, where monogamy exists, the number of married women is limited. And a countless number of women who are without support remain over. Those in the upper classes vegetate as useless old maids. Those in the lower are reduced to very hard work of a distasteful nature, or become prostitutes, and lead a life which is as joyless as it is void of honor. But under such circumstances, they become a necessity to the masculine sex, so that their position is openly recognized as a special means for protecting from seduction, those other women favored by fate, either to have found husbands or who hopes to find them. So he's against monogamy. I don't know that he's made a great case for that. In London alone, there are 800. What? In London alone, there are 80,000 prostitutes. So he's saying that it would be better for those women if men could have lots of wives, because then they could be a wife. But what about the other men who don't have wives? Why can't they pair up? I don't know. Interesting. That's why we do this literary archaeology, don't we? So we can figure this stuff out. Okay. 80,000 prostitutes. Then what are these women who have come too quickly to this most terrible end but human sacrifices on the altar of monogamy? The women here referred to and who are placed in this wretched position are the inevitable counterbalance to the European lady with her pretensions and arrogance. Hence, polygamy is a real benefit to the female sex, taking it as a whole. And on the other hand, there is no reason why a man whose wife suffers from chronic illness, multiple sclerosis, or remains barren, or has gradually become too old for him, should not take a second. Hold on a second. And on the other hand, there is no reason why a man, so he's saying, like, if she's got a chronic illness, or she can't have children, or she's become too old, there's no reason why he shouldn't just have another wife. Well, the Bible says otherwise, but, this is not the time to have that debate. Many people become converts to Mormonism. I did not. I didn't have that on my bingo card. He's German. What? Many people become converts to Mormonism for the precise reasons that they condemn the unnatural institution of monogamy. The conferring of unnatural rights upon women has imposed unnatural duties upon them, the violation of which, however, makes them unhappy. For example, many a man thinks marriage unadvisable as far as his social standing and monetary position are concerned, unless he contracts a brilliant match. He will then wish to win a woman of his own choice under different conditions, namely under those which will render safe her future and that of her children, be the conditions ever so just, reasonable, and adequate. And she consents by giving up those undue privileges which marriage, as the basis of civil society, alone can bestow. She must, to a certain extent, lose her honor and lead a life of loneliness, since human nature makes us dependent on the opinion of others in a way that is completely out of proportion to its value. While if the woman does not consent, she runs the risk of being compelled to marry a man she dislikes, or of shriveling up into an old maid, for the time allotted to her to find a home is very short. In view of this side of the institution of monogamy, Thomasius' profoundly learned treatise De Concubinatu is well worth reading, for it shows that among all nations and in all ages, down to the Lutheran Reformation, concubinage was allowed. Really, nay, that it was an institution, in a certain measure even recognized by law and associated with no dishonor, and it held this position until the Lutheran Reformation, when it was recognized as another means for justifying the marriage of the clergy, whereupon the Catholic party did not dare to remain behindhand in the matter. It is useless to argue about polygamy. It must be taken as a fact existing everywhere, the mere regulation of which is the problem to be solved. Where are there then any real monogamists? We all live, at any rate, for a time, and the majority of us always in polygamy. Consequently, as each man needs many women, nothing is more just than to let him, nay, make it incumbent upon him to provide for many women. But this means woman will be brought back to her proper and natural place as a subordinate being, and the lady, the monster of European civilization and Christian Teutonic stupidity, with her ridiculous claim to respect and veneration, will no longer exist. There will still be women, but no unhappy women, of whom Europe is at present full. The Mormon's standpoint is right. In India, no woman is ever independent, but each one stands under the control of her father or her husband, or brother or son, in accordance with the law of Manu. I thought it was more like this back then. I am constantly amazed at how modern and degenerate the thinking was a very long time ago. It is certainly a revolting idea that widows should sacrifice themselves on their husband's dead body, but it's also revolting that the money which the husband has earned by working diligently for all his life, in the hope that he was working for his children, should be wasted on her paramours. Whoa. The first love of a mother, as that of animals and men, is purely instinctive, and consequently ceases when the child is no longer physically helpless. Really? After that, the first love should be reinstated by love based on habit and reason, but this often does not appear, especially where the mother has not loved the father. I've been saying that. You have to love the father. If you don't love the father, you don't love your children. I've said that to women who blow up their marriages, not to them, but to you guys about that. You don't love your children if you hate their father or don't even like their father. You can't. Anyways, if you think that's interesting, if you think this is interesting, go subscribe to my other channel, Far From Eden, and even the Far From Eden Clips channel. We definitely delve into all this over there. Okay. The love of a father for his children is of a different nature and more sincere. It is founded on a recognition of his own inner self in the child and is therefore metaphysical in its origin. In almost every nation, both of the New and Old World, and even among the Hottentots, property is inherited by the male descendants alone. It is only in Europe that one has departed from this, that the property which men have with difficulty acquired by long continued struggling and hard work should afterwards come into the hands of women. Well, feminists are like, women couldn't own land and da-da-da-da-da. Literally ask Schopenhauer. He's saying, yes, we could. He doesn't like it, but he's saying we could. Who, in their want of reason, either squander it within a short time or otherwise waste it, is an injustice as great as it is common, and it should be prevented by limiting the right of women to inherit. It seems to me that it would be better arrangement if women, be they widows or daughters, only inherited the money for life secured by mortgage, but not the property itself or the capital, unless there lacked male descendants. It is men who make the money and not women. Therefore, women are neither justified in having unconditional possession of it, nor capable of administering it. Women should never have the free disposition of wealth, strictly so called, which they may inherit, such as capital, houses, and estates. They need a guardian always. Therefore, they should not have the guardianship of their children under any circumstances whatever. The vanity of women, even if it should not be greater than that of men, has this evil in it, that it is directed on material things, that is to say, on their personal beauty, and then on tinsel, pomp, and show. This is why they are in their right element in society. This it is which makes them inclined to be extravagant, especially since they possess little reasoning power. Accordingly, an ancient writer says, oh, okay. I can't read that. That is Greek or something. 10 men's vanity, on the other hand, is often directed on non-material things, non-material advantages, such as intellect, learning, courage, and the like. Aristotle explains in the Politics 11 the great disadvantages which the Spartans brought upon themselves by granting too much to their women, by allowing them the right of inheritance and dowry, and a great amount of freedom, and how this contributed greatly to the fall of Sparta. We've been talking a lot about the fall of Rome and the fall of the West over on my channel, Far From Eden. Okay, add Sparta to the list. May it not be that the influence of women in France, which has been increasing since Louis the 13th's time, was to blame for that gradual corruption of the court and government which led to the First Revolution, of which all subsequent disturbances have been the result. That's what we've been saying. In any case, the false position of the female sex, so conspicuously exposed by the existence of the lady, is a fundamental defect in our social condition, and this defect, proceeding from the very heart of it, must extend its harmful influence in every direction. That woman is by nature intended to obey is shown by the fact that every woman who is placed in the unnatural position of absolute independence at once attaches herself to some kind of man, by whom she is controlled and governed. This is because she requires a master. If she is young, the man is a lover. If she is old, a priest. And if you live in modern times, the man is government. Right? That's why we think we don't need no man, because he's government. It has been replaced by government. What a scam. Well, you guys, we've done it now. We've read Schopenhauer's On Women. Thank you for encouraging me to do that. That was fascinating. I'm gonna be thinking about that the whole rest of the day. Anyways, don't worry. We're still doing fairy tales on Sunday. I just wanted to add more content to our channel. There's so much to go over, so much to read and discover. So keep sending me your recommendations so that, we can have that experience. I know there's so much. I know there is. And that's why we started this channel. So subscribe if you haven't already. Hit like on this video. Share it if you, can put it on a different platform. X, Instagram, Facebook, other places I can't think of right now. Anyways, you guys, oh, wow. It's going to take a minute to digest in my brain. Well, after that, you should feel somewhat like, oh, things make sense now. It's not your fault. If she blew up your marriage, it's not your fault. And you do love those kids in a different way. You're not crazy. So, anyways, protect your peace, feed your souls. I love you guys. I'll see you on the next one.